Last week I challenged myself to finish my indie game Will You Snail within 4 weeks. 1 week has already passed, which leaves us with another 3. Will that be enough? Will my master plan end up working out? Welcome to another indie game devlog where I continue the challenge of finishing my indie game Will You Snail within just 4 weeks. Under the last video, some of you have asked me why I work in a standing position. The answer is that I personally found that I have to struggle a lot less with back pain if I do it like that. And also sometimes I can still sit down for testing or something like that, which, to be honest, looks quite strange, but not as strange as this, which is admittedly a working position I use at well sometimes. Let's hope that answered your question and didn't raise 10 more. Another question that I saw pop up a couple of times is what I'll do after this challenge when I've completed the game. The answer is that I'll probably keep working on this game even after these 4 weeks, cause even if a game is finished, even if in theory I would be ready to hit the publish button on Steam, there are just always things you can still do to make your game even better. So I absolutely do want to invest some extra time into polishing after this. So this will be the final room of the game, and I want Squid, the AI, to lie around here as a pile of garbage, basically. The end of the game, of course. I want it to be somewhat memorable, and I also want to give the player that satisfaction of finally defeating the AI. First thing I had to do is stopping the AI from moving around all the time, because usually it's a very floaty AI that basically follows you wherever you go. I know that sounds like a simple problem, but it actually took quite a bit of refactoring. The AI is quite a complex and interconnected system by now, with all of the voice lines that have to be triggered, etc. etc.
Error. This voice line has not been recorded yet.
After a while I managed to make it stay in place like this right here, but it was still hovering around a bit, which I eventually managed to get rid of. And I spread out the eyes a bit more, made them lie on the ground, so hopefully that really communicates that the eye is broken. Cannot do anything anymore. And then I went on to making some food, because last week I did a pretty decent job at taking enough breaks, not crunching too much, but nutrition is still something I need to work on. I can't eat pizza all week. Like, there are definitely worse problems to have, but as an indie game developer I find it surprisingly challenging to get some proper food inside me, because whenever I notice that I'm hungry, I'm already so hungry that it is more or less too late to cook something. First world problems, I know. I blocked out the rest of the level and added a proper end to this, which is this black wall that you walk into. That was a bit hard to see in a dark level like that, which is why I added a light blue gradient in the background, as well as some screen shake to make it feel more dramatic. So at this point the minimum viable product of this room was more or less complete. After adding that sound effect, it was time to do some writing for the AI. It was a little tricky for me to figure out what I wanted the AI to say in order to make players feel as satisfied as possible, while still making sure the AI stays on character. I definitely wanted to flip the power relationship around for once, so the AI basically begs you to stay, doesn't want to be alone and is scared. But that didn't quite feel quite on character, which is why when you decide to leave, Squid just completely snaps and starts screaming at you. That's a bit cliche perhaps, but as long as it has the desired effect, I'm okay with that. I was already running a bit short on time for that day, but I still decided to go for a quick walk just to regenerate a bit. And after that I got right into making some particle effects, because the AI didn't quite look super broken and wounded yet. I wanted to make it look even more broken and wounded to really bring the point across. This right here is how you design particles in GameMaker. It's a bit painful, because you have no representation of how it looks. You always have to try it in game. After a couple of tries I got it right, so I started doing some particles for the end of the level where you go into the black wall, into the void, which of course went through a couple of iterations as well. With all the story sections complete, the main thing that was still missing were just a ton of voice lines, because during gameplay the AI is mostly just a silent observer for now. I want that to change. I want the AI to be able to comment on pretty much everything you do, which as it turns out actually requires a lot of writing, so that's what I started with. Some parts of your development plan always take longer than you think. Seems like this was the one. I've written about 100 voice lines just as starting voice lines for the level. So for example, voice lines like this right here. Oh, it's already time for the laser show. I love the laser show. So just a voice line that plays whenever you enter a level. That already made for 100 voice lines. And that's when I realized, uh-oh, I think I'm gonna need a lot more than just those. Unfortunately, my strategy of running away and hiding failed. There was only one more way to deal with my little voice line problem. To face it. I was scared. But I knew that it was the only solution. It was. Yeah, by the end of the day I had implemented all of the 100 voice lines, but that's pretty much it. And then in the evening I had a little chat with Tim Ruswick. That video will appear on Tim's channel sometime soon, so if you're not subscribed to Tim yet, do so now. Unfortunately, when I woke up on Wednesday, my problem was still not solved yet. There were still so many more voice lines I had to write, so I hacked! Okay, I mean, we all know that it probably looked more like this. At this point I was getting really worried that I would fall behind in my development plan. On that day alone I wrote 350 new voice lines, which all still need to be implemented into the game and which all need to be recorded by me next week. Feeling that time pressure really made taking enough breaks a lot more challenging all of a sudden. And when I started implementing the voice lines into the game, I started to wonder, have I actually messed this up? By the end of the day, the AI could already react to a lot of different scenarios, for example, jumping into a spike on the wall. What can I say? Walls are dangerous. Or even some more advanced stuff like when you jump directly into a trap. Lol, you jumped right into that. I think stuff like that definitely makes Squid feel a lot more alive and is definitely worth it. The only problem, I wasn't even halfway done with implementing, whereas my development plan said I should have been done. Here's the development plan. Today is Thursday. I didn't manage to implement all of the context-specific voice lines yesterday. Luckily, my development plan has included some buffer time for that. You already know, even if you plan your development super generously, something will take longer than expected. For me, that was this task right here, implementing the context-specific voice lines. I greatly underestimated that one. So this buffer time really helps me to reduce my stress levels a bit. Pretty grateful that I put that in here. So I instantly got to work, implementing as many voice lines as I possibly could. Let's get rid of that variable. Now this voice line is not triggered because the jump one is triggered all the time. So I'm talking about these underwater currents right here. They can give you a speed boost underwater. And for example, if you do something like this where they just boost you directly into some spikes, I want some specific voice lines to be triggered. Against all odds and against my own expectations, I actually managed to implement all of the remaining voice lines, even had a little bit of time for playtesting at the end. And as usual, my Friday was spent on editing this YouTube video. It would really mean the world to me if you could head over to Steam real quick and take the 20 seconds it takes to wishlist Will You Snail. And I'll see you next week when we find out whether I'm able to record all of the voice lines on time. I'm excited, I'm hyped, the saga will continue. See you then.